the opportunities to just find a way, me as a head coach, get these guys to play their best 12 times. And so with that being said, we still need to make mistakes in practice and make sure that we be aggressive in the way that we train. Obviously, the season is going to come down to, it's going to require some physical part of the game too, and a little bit of pain, and I think all that's necessary. So these guys are committed to getting that done, and I'm excited to be their coach.
Lake, on your Thursday morning, that was BYU head football coach Kalani Sitake at Big 12 Media Days. We're going to continue that conversation right now. So joining me is Matt Baiamonte, who is a studio host for BYU Athletics. Matt, thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
Glad to be here. You know what Media Day means? Football's right around the corner.
It is. It's going to be here before we know it. So what were some of the big takeaways from your perspective from what Sitake had to say at Media Days?
Yeah, I just felt like he is supremely confident in his team, and rightfully so. They bring back the most production in terms of starts in the Big 12, so they have a very experienced team on both sides of the football. And then I also think he's very bullish, if that's the word, on his quarterback, Bear Bachmeier. I think it's easy to forget that at this time last year, Bear had not yet practiced with BYU football. Now he's got a year under his belt, a spring football under his belt, and he's the leader offensively. And really, he's the face of the program, and there's a lot to be excited about when you have a returning quarterback who was as productive and talented as Bear was in his freshman season.
Yeah, let's talk about Bear a little bit more here. I mean, what are the full expectations here? Because you already mentioned it. This is the first full offseason of being a quarterback.
Yeah, I think the expectations for Bear are to improve on what he did last year, which means more passing yards, hopefully more passing touchdowns. We know that he was a beast on the ground, and we would expect that to continue. But Kalani also noted during his commentary in Texas for Big 12 Media Days that he wants Bear to be a little bit more careful. Yeah, he wears 47, and he's a bigger quarterback, and he's going to run, and he wants to get that yardage. But Kalani, in his words, said the best ability is availability. They want Bear to be available, be a little more dynamic in the passing game as well. But at the same time, keep doing what you're doing in terms of taking care of the football and making good decisions.
What did the players and coaches have to say about having to replace Jay Hill as defensive coordinator?
Yeah, one guy who spoke a lot and has been making the rounds is their defensive tackle, Keanu Tanavasa. And he said, look, not a lot's changed. We believe in Kelly Papinga. And Kalani Sitake also noted that this was the plan all along. He knew that Michigan's defensive coordinator, Jay Hill, he aspires to be a head coach, and he knew whether it was going to be to leave for Michigan, which he ultimately did, or if he was to take a head coaching job somewhere else, that one day Jay Hill would leave. He was not going to be a 10, 20-year defensive coordinator for BYU. He told a great story about how in his first year, when he was coaching NFL linebackers like Fred Warner, that players like Fred told him, hey, we were heavily influenced by our position coach at the time, Kelly Papinga. He noted that, and then once he had a chance to bring him onto his staff, he wanted to see what Kelly was all about. Obviously, he liked what Kelly Papinga brought in his previous role under him at BYU, and it was an easy promotion for Kalani Sitake to elevate K-pop, and the players are bought in. A lot of the players who loved Jay Hill and played for Jay Hill, they stuck around. They could have entered the transfer portal and maybe try to find a new home or even followed Coach Hill to Michigan. They did not. They stayed to play for Kalani and Kelly Papinga, so optimism is high defensively.
Okay, I want to ask you about running back L.J. Martin. He missed the bowl game last year with an injury. Let's talk about recovery. Is he ready for the season now?
Ready to go, 100% ready to go. There are no limitations. Now, I think Kalani has shown throughout his tenure that a player of LJ's caliber, there won't be a need in training camp to give him a full workload. You can work him back in from that injury, but nothing is going to stop him from being 100% ready to go when they hit the home field, the Lavelle Edwards Field in early September against Utah Tech.
Okay, so BYU, they lost a lot of wide receivers. So how confident is this team that someone will step in there, and who could that be?
They are supremely confident. Kalani Sitake said down in Texas that there are 8 guys in that room that they feel comfortable playing. And there's some really high-end talent. JoJo Phillips, I think, is one of those players who's been around a long time, has a lot of talent. It's his time to shine. It's his time to step into an elevated role. They bring in a transfer from Oregon, Kyler Casper. He's a big, tall receiver, also very talented, has been hampered a bit by injuries during his time as a Duck, but he'll be someone who's expected to make an impact. And then you've got some younger guys who have not seen a lot of action, but have been in the program for several years. One of those guys is Puka Nakua's little brother, Tay Nakua. Is now his time to step in to an elevated role. And then on top of that, they've got a couple of really talented freshmen who made names for themselves in spring football. Isaiah Glasker's little brother, Legend Glasker, is a player to keep an eye on in fall camp and maybe the season as a freshman who could contribute right away. And then, of course, there's Jaron Pula, a talented receiver from Timpview High School who had a unbelievable catch last year in Utah's state playoffs. He's another guy who could come in and make an impact immediately as a freshman.
Okay, let's talk about how far BYU could go this year. Preseason rankings, they have them contending for the conference title. Is that the expectation this year after appearing in that title game last year?
How can it not be the expectation? You go to Dallas last year. It was not the outcome any BYU fan wanted, but they did get there, considering they had a true freshman quarterback. There were question marks on last year's team. Was the offensive line going to step up and be good? A lot of those questions were answered to the tune of a double-digit win season and a trip to Arlington. And yeah, you didn't go to the playoff, and we don't need to get into that. But this team expects to be back in Dallas and to avenge that loss, quite frankly. And that's the most natural progression step for Kalani in this program. You retain his services. He signed an extension. He wants to be here long term. You bring back so much talent. We've already talked about LJ and Bear. This offensive line anchored by their center, Bruce Mitchell, and one of their tackles, Andrew Gentry. They stockpile on the offensive line with incoming transfers. Defensively, yeah, you lose Jay Hill. You bring back a lot of talent. Naturally, the next step for a program with that much experience, not only on the field, but on the sidelines with the coaching staff, the expectation is certainly to get back to Dallas and to become a Big 12 champion.
Matt, you said at the beginning of this that football season's right around the corner. A couple personal questions here. How excited are you that it's coming around so soon?
I'll tell you what, the World Cup has made it a little easier to enjoy sports in the summer. Normally, there's this little lull after the NBA Finals comes to a pause. The World Cup's been so much fun. So that's helped. But look, football I represent a lot of people here in the state of Utah. Football is just near and dear to my heart. I absolutely love college football. So this time of year, you start to get antsy, you get a little excited because you know it's finally here. So I can't wait. And then on top of that, how lucky are we here in the state of Utah to have not only Utah and BYU, two teams in the Big 12, two teams that have high national expectations. And the fact that both of these teams have a clear path to play meaningful football in the college football playoff, that is so exciting. And the expectations are so high for BYU to return to the Big 12 championship game, to break through into the playoff. They have so much talent. They've invested so many resources into their coach, into their program, into their players to get to that level. It's truly a special time to be a BYU fan.
Okay, Matt, we only have a minute left, so I'm just going to sneak this one in there because I am a University of Utah graduate. How are you feeling about the Utes this year?
Man, there's a lot of change. It's hard to truly get a sense of what's going to happen up on the hill. Morgan Scalley's been there a long time. He's highly respected. I love his commentary at Big 12 Media Days. I love how he is talking about the respect and the rivalry. I think him and Kalani Sitake are close friends. There's going to be a great respect between those coaches. They have some talent coming back, but they lost a lot of talent. It's always hard to predict when you make a coaching change how it's going to go. I'm hoping that the program level stays high because that's great for us here in the state of Utah to have that rivalry game be meaningful on a national level.
All right, Matt Baiamonte, thank you so much for chatting with me this morning. We got a lot to look forward to for the upcoming football season. Thanks a lot.
Can't wait. It's right around the corner. Thank you.
All right, appreciate it.